What's up? I'm Tyler.
And I'm Dakota.
And this is the Bourbon and Business Podcast,
where we interview successful businessmen and women to let you in on why success doesn't have a single formula to follow.
We also have a little bourbon tasting along the way because why not?
Why not?
So guys, please enjoy this episode and let us know your thoughts at Bourbon and Business Podcast on Instagram.
Coming to you from the Bourbon and Business Studio here in the Capitol Club in downtown Jackson, Mississippi. I'm Tyler.
I'm Dakota.
And this is the Bourbon and Business Podcast. How you doing this morning, Dakota?
Great, Tyler. It is the afternoon.
It is the afternoon. I'm so used to the morning, so I guess we are in the afternoon.
Okay, we're going to have to cut you off early today, I guess.
I appreciate you pointing that out.
You're welcome.
Well, you want to tell our guests about the Capitol Club?
I do. Today we're at the Capitol Club. We got the best views in downtown Jackson, event space, daily lunches, networking events, parking garage. They got it all.
Yep. So if you're not a member of the Capitol Club, you need to go on and get a membership today. And then do you want to introduce our guests?
I do. Today we have special guest, Chelsea Olsen, founder of CLOHZ. Chelsea, welcome.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Yep. I'm glad to have you. And then what are we sipping on today, Dakota?
Today we're sipping on Crooked Fox. The motto is never trust the eyes you can't see. Trust your instinct, which is very intense for a bourbon.
Yeah, that's a heck of a motto there.
Yeah.
But this is really good bourbon. How much was the bottle?
It was about $30.
And where'd you get that bottle?
Cheers Vineyard is who sponsors our podcast.
Yep. So if you're looking to pick up a bourbon, pick it up from Cheers and Gluckstadt. And I will have to say for $30, I'm going to have to give this a 8.9.
Okay.
So very smooth. It is a lower proof. You told me earlier, so I won't let the audience think that I'm guessing
remember?
But it's 80 proof.
Oh, good job.
So very smooth bourbon. If you're not a big bourbon drinker, this would probably be a bourbon that you would like to try to start with.
Yeah.
But good bourbon. And like I said, pick it up from Cheers and we'll give it a 8.9.
Good deal.
Well, Chelsea, we appreciate you coming on today. We like to always start this. If you would just give our listeners your background, where you're from, and then how you got to the point of starting your consulting firm.
Yeah, well, I'll try to keep it short and snappy so I don't bore your audience here. I'm from New York. I live in Long Island. For those of you that know the area, I live by the beach. I own a company called CLOHZ. We focus on teaching sales and marketing teams how to fully leverage LinkedIn to build their pipelines, brands, and revenue. That's our little slogan. It's been a long journey. So I've been in sales 20 years. I've been using LinkedIn specifically for sales for 15 years. So doing B2B sales for 15 years on the platform. It's a long time. And then I've been teaching my program for 8 years. And that's how my company CLOHZ came about.
Okay, well, nice. Well, tell our audience a little bit, because we get these questions a lot, like Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. In your opinion, why is LinkedIn a better platform for people in the business world to market their self?
Great question. So when it comes down to B2B sales, a business selling to another business, LinkedIn is the ultimate platform. If you have a consumer-facing product, you're better off probably on Instagram or Facebook. Although nowadays you should be on LinkedIn as well, I think, regardless. Like it's hitting its golden era, LinkedIn, and you guys should just be on there no matter what. Yeah. But on the business realm side of things, LinkedIn is where you need to be. That's where your prospects are. That's where they live. And it's essentially just like another distribution channel. So when I talk about LinkedIn, I tend to not talk about it like a social media channel, like an Instagram or a Facebook or a TikTok. It's more so like cold email or cold calling. It's just another way to connect with your prospects.
Yeah. And I think one thing we notice about LinkedIn, because obviously we're on all the social platforms, but it is still very organic. Like you can post something, you're able to reach an audience versus, your Instagram and your Facebook are very much kind of pay to play type deal, especially Facebook. If you're putting content on there, it's kind of hard to get it out on Facebook if you're not, I guess, boosting those posts versus on the LinkedIn site. If you put something out and you have a good network, it's going to just organically grow. Do you get that feedback from anybody?
Absolutely. Facebook and Instagram, they're so saturated. I call it the blue sea versus the red sea. There's so much competition on Instagram and Facebook, and everyone's fighting for this attention. And that's why you go to LinkedIn. Even as a consumer brand, just go there because it's the blue sea. It's open with opportunity. There's plenty of people that are not posting. I mean, less than 1% truly post on LinkedIn. And that opens up a huge opportunity if you want to go the organic route. Obviously, I built a brand on there, but I've seen this with other companies as well. And you can drive a lot of inbound and also support the outbound that you're doing, which is what it's really there for.
I think they call them lurkers. Is that right? On LinkedIn, people who like don't like posts, but they'll talk to you if they see you in person, and they'll be like, "Hey, dude, that was a cool post the other day on Bourbon Business," and I'm like, "Well, I had no idea you saw it because you didn't like it. If you could like it, that'd be great." But the lurkers are the people who are there and they see your stuff, but they just don't click on it, right? So like you're getting those impressions, you're getting the views from it, but they don't necessarily generate the likes or the comment, organic content. But there's a ton of them on there. And how many millions of people are on LinkedIn? Do you know off the top of your head? It's hundreds, right?
I think in the US, oh my gosh, don't quote me on this. And I have it in a PowerPoint so I can pull it up. Maybe it was like 60 million were the decision makers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, something like that.
It's still crazy numbers. Yeah. And if 1% of those are posting, like the opportunity is just massive.
Like literally no one posts, and they do lurk. I have the same thing. Like so many people will say, "Hey, I saw this post." I'm like, "Okay, cool. Like, then why didn't you comment? You see me try to build a brand out here."
You'll like so-and-so's picture on Instagram of their new car, but you won't like my posts on
exactly.
Yeah.
Like where I told you exactly how to make, a deal today, and you didn't put my heart and soul into it. You didn't even like it.
Well, tell our listeners a little bit about how do you draw that audience out, the people that are seeing your post and they're not interacting. How do you get them to start interacting with your post or to feel comfortable doing that?
So, you can't make people interact with your posts. The thing is, overall, on an individual level, you can't. But if you want to do it globally, you have to have really engaging content. I mean, that's number one. You have to learn how to write for the algorithm because there is a specific way to create content on LinkedIn, and it's completely different than creating content on any other platform. You have to learn the rules, okay? If you know the rules, you're going to see an increase in engagement. And then make it easy for people to engage. So have one simple call to action, right? That asks them a yes or no question. Don't make them think. Make things easy, like 1 point per post. Just keep it simple. The simpler things are, the more your engagement will increase.
Would you suggest a call to action every post or like every 4, 10? Is there like a number there?
I like to have a CTA for every post, but the CTs are different. So sometimes it's asking a question and trying to get those comments.
Right.
Especially if you're starting an account, you want comments because that's going to tell LinkedIn, oh, people like this post. I'm going to push it out to more people. You want more of like that type of a call to action in the beginning where you're just trying to get people to comment and engage with you and build a following. And then, you don't want a sales CTA for every post, but we're here for sales. So let's put some of those in there, DM me if you want to try bourbon, whatever it wants to be, right? And then other CTs could be other things like if you like this type of content, if you like these types of podcasts, follow us here, subscribe. So a variation, but always having something at the bottom for them to do.
Gotcha. No, that's super helpful for sure. What about why is social selling growing so much? Because used to be, it was just cold calls, right? Cold emails, cold calls, that was kind of it. And those are still popular. A lot of people do that. Tyler's in insurance. I'm sure you still have agents who cold call people all the time. I cold call attorneys sometimes for my job. But why is social selling I feel like in the past decade, it's just blown up.
It's because all the other channels are really challenging. So cold calling used to work really well. Like I started cold calling back in the early 2000s and it was somewhat effective.
Yeah.
And, in the middle 2000s, cold email was all the rage and that was working. And then we learned automation and AI towards 2020 and things really blew up because we got really excited and we could do everything at scale and those one-to-one emails. But now we're in 2025 and those channels are completely saturated. People have tuned them out. And now LinkedIn, this social selling thing, it's just another distribution channel. It's another outlet and it works and it's not saturated yet. As long as you're not spamming people in the DMs, you're safe.
It is interesting though, because the social selling aspect of it requires you to put some skin in the game, if that makes sense. So the cold call, it's a dial. You either get a voicemail, no answer, or somebody can hang up in your face, or you get a sale, right? Or a meeting at least. With an email, it's kind of like, okay, I send the email, my signature's at the bottom of it, so they know where to call me or whatever, or they can respond to the email or not. There's almost, there's no skin in the game really still. But on content, you have to post. And that stuff is out there for people to see because that's the point of it, right? So you're getting people to see more of, which may be why it works so well organically.
Well, it's the process too, right? So again, going back to the cold calling you were just talking about, back in the day, you'd just dial someone's phone. If they answered, you might be able to pitch them. You became the single source of truth on the product or service you're selling. And they had to listen to you. And then if they wanted more, maybe they'll do a demo or they'll keep talking, right? And the same thing with cold email. You send it, they like what you're saying, they'll click a link, they'll book a meeting, you do the demo. Nowadays, that's different. So you do the outreach to the prospect. They don't book a meeting right away. They go to the LinkedIn profile of the person that sent it. And there is where they consume content. So the average person that books a meeting, like your average prospect, will consume 13 plus pieces of content before they book a call. And they're 70% through their buying decision.
Wow. 13. That's a lot.
A lot. They're self-educating more than ever before. So if you have content there, it helps convert the business. And if you don't, well, you're losing deals.
It also builds some credibility, right? I mean, it teaches them that you are an expert on this subject matter or whatever you're trying to talk to them about. And so they can say, oh, this person's been generating content for 5 years, 6 years now. Like, yeah, maybe I should hear them out about what they have to say.
Yeah, I love that. And that's not even an angle I always talk about, but it's so true. That credibility factor is there. And they just want information. They want to self-vet. They don't want to feel like you're pushing a meeting on them, right? You're like, I got it. I know how to do research. I don't need you telling me. So it's another way for you to just lead them down your funnel.
Yeah.
Well, and it goes back to, I think at the end of the day, people want to do business with people that they know and they like. And, the weird thing about social media is if you're putting content out there consistently, people feel like they know you. And, we've experienced that since the podcast has started. People, and really and truly, you're listening to somebody every day, you're hearing their thoughts, you do get to know that person. Now, it's a one way knowing someone because the person that's putting the content out doesn't know you. But that is the cool thing about social media. Someone can feel comfortable with you and get to know you just by the content you're putting out there.
On a micro level, it's like it's like what celebrities face all the time. People walk up to him and they're like, I'll just use Justin Bieber because he's been in the news a lot lately. Like, Justin, let's take a picture. And he's like, dude, I don't know you. I'm just trying to have dinner with my wife. Like it's wild that happens. So, but Tyler's had a lot of people come up to him and ask for photos. So
yeah.
It's how does it feel? I haven't gotten to that point.
No, it's been like one. It's not been a lot. So, but it is a weird phenomenon in the time that we're living in that, from a business perspective, you can have clients out there that do feel comfortable with you already, even though you've never talked to them. And I think that is a huge selling opportunity there.
Yes, no doubt.
100%. I mean, even with me, like I'll get on the phone and people, they know stuff about my life, and it's because I have a personal brand and I share, which is funny. But then you also get that flip side where sometimes people are just trying to do discovery calls with you because they've seen you on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
They want to pick your brain. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not the one for that. So please do not do that to me.
Yeah.
And that is the one thing. And for our listeners, if you are starting to get in this and put your information out there, just know that there are going to be people out there that, spam you for whatever reason. And like you said, you get all these DMs. I mean, we get DMs about just off the wall stuff.
Random.
I mean, people asking our shoe size. We've had that happen, which was very odd.
Your shoe? Do they want to send you shoes?
Yes, we actually had someone reach out, wanted our shoe size. We never got any shoes, so not sure what that was about. But did
you tell them?
Well, yeah.
Eventually we did. I mean, we were like, whatever.
It's free shoes, Chelsea. I couldn't pass that up.
But we didn't get any shoes, so I'm not sure maybe they put that in their journal. I'm not sure what the deal was.
Oh my God.
But it is that is the odd side to social media. You do get that, but it's more good. I think more good than bad, especially if you're doing it the right way and actually taking steps that it's professional and not something that's odd.
Yeah, no doubt. And interviews as well, right? So even companies nowadays, like that's your new Facebook profile. They'll still check that probably, but they're checking LinkedIn too. Like, are you putting stuff out there? Do you have a personal brand already attached to you that you bring wherever you go? That's much more valuable to a company than somebody who never posts on LinkedIn, is a ghost online, right? And you have the same resume as somebody else, but this person has a personal brand and has 10,000 followers, and this person has, 500 connections on LinkedIn that are going to show the follower amount. And it's kind of like, well, who am I going to go with, right? If this person has actually already established credibility, rapport with all these followers, I'm going to go with them because it would make sense, especially if they cost the same.
Yeah, and perception's reality. And what's funny is like some of the best experts don't have any presence on LinkedIn, right? They don't do any of this. They're busy, their heads down, they're working. And I suffered with this for a long time. So I worked in finance. I always had other side businesses. And even through all these years with LinkedIn, I wasn't posting on LinkedIn until a couple years ago. Like I was teaching outreach and I was helping companies build pipelines and crush it and close deals, but I wasn't posting about it. So no one knew that I was this expert, right? And like that's the other downside to not having a brand and not posting, because if you don't tell them, they'll never know. You could be the absolute best at what you do and someone could be mediocre, but they'll go with the person who's mediocre just because of that brand and that arbitrary following count, which really does not convert to skills whatsoever. Honestly, it doesn't.
Well, we've seen celebrities do this. Kylie Jenner, The Rock, all these people that Selena Gomez and her makeup brand, Rihanna, like all these people had these huge followings. Ryan Reynolds and his gin brand, like, and then just created a product or partnered with somebody to create a product, and then boom, overnight worth $1 billion. And it's like, what just happened? That's their personal brand. That's how established it was, and that's how much their followers believe in them.
Well, tell our listeners a little bit about you starting your business. What was that like for you?
CLOHZ originally was a lead gen company. So we did a lot of like done for you outreach. We were playing in the cold email game. That's a game I played in for a long time. We were automating outreach on LinkedIn. So, we're using things like LinkedIn Helper back in the day, setting up the tech stack, running it for our clients, doing that outreach. And again, like those things worked back then in the early 2020s, but they just don't now. So that's how the company started. And then I pivoted and shifted, actually, to be honest, completely honest, in 2023. I didn't want to run this agency anymore, like the lead gen side. And I was also fractional for a couple agencies, like the head of sales. And I kind of burned everything down. And I was like, going to go to Europe with my kids for the summer and just like chill. And I took a break. And then I came back and was like, all right, what do I want to build? And really said, you know what, I'm going to focus on the personal brand side and start teaching only the training, right? Like no more done for you, no more fractional leadership. And that's how we got to where we are now. And like I have an agency, I have, a few employees, and it's nice. It's a good company. It's like a good company that I want to run, and I really enjoyed running.
When you get to build things yourself like that, you kind of get to make them how you want it, especially if you've already come from owning something or building something, the mistakes, and you're like, man, if I got the chance to do that again, I would not do XYZ, right? And so at that stage where you're like, now I get to do something that is everything that I want and nothing that I don't. So that's fantastic. Good for you. I did want to touch on what it's like dealing with the pressure. You mentioned you have kids. What it's like dealing with the pressure of being that founder and a mom. Like, what is that like?
It's a lot.
Because we have a lot of listeners who will ask us from time to time and just say like, hey, how do people do it? How do they do it managing one child, two child, a family, a career, being a founder, a side hustle, car breaks down. We just have so much stuff always going on, and doing LinkedIn social selling and stuff like that. Like how do you do it all?
So I'm a single mom of 2 girls who make my life really easy, because honestly, I know I'm going to sound like the typical mother, but they're angels. I swear to God, they're just such good kids. So they just bring so much joy to my life, and they really are just easy to parent. They're easy children. So that's there. I've been blessed with 2 easy children. And then on the business side, some of those mistakes you're talking about, I used to try to hire people. Like I had this like broken bird syndrome, like where I wanted to save all the broken birds and give them a job, because, I was in leadership roles, or I owned a company, so I'd try to help a friend.
That's why Tyler's on this podcast with me, by the way. Just kidding. Please continue.
No, but it is like a thing where, like, as a business owner, sometimes you want more for the people than they want that are working for you. And I had to really assess like my hiring decisions and make the right ones this time around, because those people that I place into my business, they have to be the right people in the right seats. And I worked really hard to find the right people this go around. And I did. And I truly am not hiring anybody who has a relationship with me, an old friend or someone else's friend who needs a job. Like, I'm not, that those times are done. But having the right team is everything. If you are going to truly go and grow a business, allocating your time and knowing like what you should be focusing on, because too many people and too many founders focus on things they shouldn't be focusing on. You have to allocate your time very wisely. And then I think like the other part of running a business that's really important is just ensuring that like you don't take too long to do things. Like, you make quick decisions, and even if they're the wrong decisions, you just keep moving fast because you can't waste time.
Yeah. Well, and I think with, running a business, and for all our founders that are listening, business owners, like, you have to look at that business like it is a baby, like that, the decisions that you're making have to be what's in the best interest for the business. And
hard to parent baby at that.
And, when you're dealing with employees, a lot of time, as the business owner, you're going to feel responsible for, their families and their success, which to a point, you should feel that way. But at the same time, like you said, you got to have the right people that are willing to actually put the work in and want it. You can't want it more than they want it, and then expect that they're going to be successful. And I think that is key to when you're finding employees. You have to make sure that there's somebody that has the drive and the willingness to be successful, because if they don't, you're never going to be able to turn them into that. That's not something that you just teach someone.
Yeah, that work ethic cannot be taught. And that, like, I got burnt for sure. And lessons learned, guys.
Right.
Yep. You got to learn them. Look, as long as you're living and learning, you're okay. If you ever stop learning, you're in trouble.
Right.
That's true.
How have you managed to, or have you, I should say, have you managed to mold AI into your practice, and what does that look like?
I was a very early adopter of automation and AI. So I was one of the first companies that was automating all that outreach on LinkedIn and automating the cold email campaigns and using and leveraging AI to its fullest capacity, even very early on, ChatGPT, before people were using it, for writing and editing and doing everything. I continue to grow with it, but I also now see its limitations in certain respects. Like, a lot of companies are creating AI agents, so they're doing these AI people, essentially, like these AI tools that can do outreach. And I'm speaking out against it, because there are certain things that we can leverage AI for and automation for, but then there is a point where a human has to come on board and have a conversation and do some authentic outreach. And things are turning back towards people want that authentic connection, and they're getting burnt out already on the AI and the automation tools.
Well, I think I was going to ask you this earlier on social media. I'm glad we brought this back up. But we're seeing a lot of people that are just generating their posts solely from AI. So you'll see a post go out, and now that it's been happening so much, you can kind of see automatically, okay, AI wrote that. What are your thoughts on people that are putting content out that is generated by AI? Is that good or bad?
It's not working for them.
Yeah.
You can't do that, especially with LinkedIn. You have to write a very specific way on LinkedIn. And I have like a whole guideline that I can share with you guys, but you have to have a short hook, a rehook. It has to be under 6 to 8 words. It can't wrap. You have to have listicles, lots of white spaces. You have to speak at a 5th grade reading level. Like, the rules are endless. And I've even trained a ChatGPT. So I've trained a custom prompt, GPT prompt for LinkedIn posts. And I've put in all the rules, and I've trained it, and it still gets it wrong.
Yeah.
You still have to edit it, right? Like, you can't fully rely on it. And if you're just using AI to write and you're not editing, it's not going to work. I mean, it barely works when you write it by hand. So good luck. Oh, by the way, I have to tell you, I found the numbers. Okay. So it was 1 billion LinkedIn users today.
Wow.
So we've hit 1 billion. And then in the US, it's 230 million LinkedIn users.
Goodness. That's nuts. That is, I've seen a lot of of push for college students to start building a presence on LinkedIn before they graduate, so that when companies go to look at them, they have a history of what they're doing. Like, some of these kids want to go into content management, and so they will literally get clients in high school or college and like have clients that they work with and have a portfolio that they can show a company one day and be like, hey, here's what I've been doing already. And the company's like, yeah, come on. Like, it looks good, you know? That is your resume at that point.
Yeah. Well, tell our listeners a little bit about, so what's next for you guys? What, for your consulting firm there?
Well, we continue to train sales teams and teach them how to fully leverage LinkedIn so they could connect with their prospects and get meetings and build a pipeline, because honestly, building a pipeline today is so different than it used to be. And we teach them how to sell today. And that's something that you could be great at sales. You could be an absolute expert in what you do. But if you don't know how to build a pipeline today, it's going to be hard to grow.
Yeah, that's good. And that's a cool space to be moving into for sure. I think it's going to be very interesting watching what that looks like. And then with the pushback against AI, right? I think there's just so much nuance to human networking that technology is still a ways away from. I know there's the AI buffs who will push back on me here, and they'll be like, AI is everything, it is the future. And I respect it, right? But I think there's nuance to human relationships and so many subtleties that get missed by technology because it's not, what's the word I'm looking for, Tyler? Conscious.
I was going to say human.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah. Like AI, I always say this, AI is information, but it's not wisdom and it's not God. Right? Like, we have God inside of us, and I don't want to get too heady, but we have that like soul in us.
Yeah.
And that's what connection comes from. It doesn't come from information. It comes from that true, heartful, like soulful connection. And that's what's going to work moving forward. I think we're going to lean even more into our humanity because of AI and automation, not away from it.
Well, and I think that, there's so much, because technology is so big now, everybody's on their smartphones now, that you're taking in all this information. So when you do come across a connection, you actually connect with somebody, whether that's, on a sales call or, friendship, whatever, it means more, and it's going to leave a lasting impression on that client that it's like, okay, well, they're actually a human being that I can do business with versus a bot or whatever else that's out there. One other question I have for you, because you did pique my interest. You were talking about working with sales teams.
Yeah.
So obviously, I've been in sales for a long time, worked in sales, and typically, not always, but most of the time, your top producers are the people that probably are not great with technology, and, they're not very good at keeping up with things as far as, being organized. Typically, the people that are good at that are not the ones in the sales role. How do you coach teams to manage that and to, I guess, help with that gap there between the two?
With the more seasoned experts, they oftentimes truly don't need to prospect as much. And I know leadership doesn't want to hear this. I have a philosophy: if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? If these guys are in these roles, they're 50, 60 years old, and they're still crushing it, and they have a book of business, leave them alone. Like, I know you want the information in the CRM. Go get them a little VA to help put the info in the CRM, because the CRM is important. That's like the Bible, right? So go put it in there, okay? Somehow get the information in there. But if you have someone kicking and screaming, they don't want to use LinkedIn to prospect or anything, leave them alone. Let them do their thing for now, right? Let them write it out. On people that are younger, you have to teach them. And that's what I do. It's really, truly, like, the tools now are so user-friendly. They're very easy to use. And if a team is given the time and the attention, they can be walked through how to leverage certain tools like the automation. But we don't teach like spamming people for messages, sending your Calendly link. It's really just the connection request, and then having a video message that you film yourself, or writing an authentic message. So that all is innate to a salesperson, or it should be.
Well, and it's so funny, the gaps you see in the salespeople. So you have obviously older generation, which, we're falling into that now, but you get the older generation that they're, more willing. They're probably going to pick the phone up, call someone, talk to them. And then, of course, the younger generation come in, they want to do everything online. They want to they'd rather send a message, a Facebook message, like picking up the phone to them is like a foreign concept.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, hey, like you got to pick the phone up, like you're gonna have to call them.
Yeah, I have this buddy named Tyler Wiltshire who I do a podcast with, and he calls me all the time where it could have easily been a text message. He will interrupt my day, and I'll be like, Tyler's calling. It must be something urgent. And I pick up the phone, and he's like, hey, did you see that so-and-so did this on this ESPN article? And I'm like, Tyler, are you kidding me? I'm in the middle of something, man. You just send me the article. Just text it to me. I'll read it when I have time.
Tyler might make more
Okay.
money than you, though. I don't know.
So,
He does, for sure.
but what are you seeing in your space as far as the gap there? So you got obviously
gap?
they're gonna pick the phone up there. They're about the personal relationship, and then the younger generation, not all, but for the most part, they'd rather send a text message.
There's a definite gap with the older folks, and I don't want to with the older folks, much older than us, right? They do sometimes need to use LinkedIn and learn it. And it's really more so too, it's like shifting leadership to understand this, because they're just like, well, no, we could do more cold calls and we can use AI to do the cold calls. And look, it does a pause and it says, and I'm like, it still sucks. Like, no, okay, this is the cold calling and the cold emails. We can do 100 domains. I'm like, yeah, no crap. Like, we've been doing this for years. It's not working. So it's more so shifting leadership to understand, like, guys, we have to get on LinkedIn. And they're like, we don't like social media. And I'm like, it's not social media, it's revenue. Like, you like revenue, so just come this way. Like, it's more so driving leadership to adopt and understand that, yeah, you got to be on LinkedIn so you can send text messages to people, so you can send video messages, so you can engage in a community and comment on posts. But like, yeah, the older folks, it's harder for them. It really is. But if they're open to it, they can learn. If they're not, they won't.
Yeah. Well, what would you tell the young person out there that only wants to do things through social media and they don't, they're not big on the personal connection? What advice would you give them?
I mean, they truly, unfortunately, you're not going to hear this, they could completely hit their quota just using LinkedIn and never picking up the phone. I've sold enterprise level, never picking up the phone. Now I've
That's a lot.
But
are you aware of enterprise level, Tyler?
I'm assuming
like
I know it's business to
it's like
business,
top,
so,
tip top.
Yeah. So
because I really like LinkedIn is the phone. It's a video phone because you can video film yourself and say, hey, I just want you to know I'm not a bot. So XYZ about your team, wanted to touch base. I'm here and I do XYZ, quick question, blah, blah, blah. Right? Like it is a phone. It's the new phone.
well, you heard it here. So, well, to all our listeners, would you tell them if they're looking for a consultant in the LinkedIn world or social media, how can they get in touch with you?
Just come to my LinkedIn profile page, connect with me, and add a connection request message, because I have a lot of people in there. But if you actually need help, put it in that connection request message, and my team and I will field the responses and we'll see if we can help.
Well, great.
Fantastic.
And to all our listeners, however you stream this podcast, if you would give us a rating and follow us on social media, and we will see you next week.
You're not going to ask me for my rating on the bourbon?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry about that, Dakota.
You never asked
We can get Dakota's rating on the bourbon here.
This is ridiculous. Oh my goodness. Anyway,
he's at 8.9. What do you give it?
it's got a good flavor and a good burn for an 80 proof. I was surprised. Most 80 proofs are like water to me, but I'm gonna go with an 8.6. I liked a little bit more, I think, like woody flavor to it, but I thought it was still pretty good for a $30 bottle. I mean, that's a Debbie drinker for sure. And Chelsea, we said we were gonna get yours on your tea that you have.
Tea. So I like my cup. It says Mom Rock, so it's a good cup.
Oh, that's an instant right there. I mean,
it's a cranberry. It's like a cranberry and holy basil tea. So, and it got cold, so I'm gonna give it a 7.
Okay,
7. So we'll do a 7
for
on
a
the
cold
tea.
tea. Not bad.
And we'll land at 8.7 for the Crooked Fox bourbon. And we will see y'all next week.
Bye, guys.
Hope you guys enjoyed this episode.
If you have any feedback or would like to be featured, reach out to us at bourbonandbusinesspodcast@gmail.com.
Or find us on Instagram at Bourbon and Business Podcast.
Thanks again for listening.
Follow us for more content and info on the next episode.